Ta-da! You're here. It's the end of the year. This is the last academic video you'll get from me this year. So congratulations on your hard work, all your effort, all your diligence, because you've made it to the end, or almost to the end. What is it? Oh yes, we have one more thing to do, right? Oh yes, it's a final exam for the entire semester. Oh my God. So don't worry about it. Deep breath. I'm going to guide you through my review guide, 5 pages of stuff to help you out. And then we'll talk about the content briefly, and then I'm going to turn you loose to get ready for that test. Woo! Okay, so here you go. Big review guide shared with you electronically. If you want to print out, you just have to ask me for it. I'm not going to print one for everybody because they just end up all over campus. But if you'd like a printout, I'll do that. Just let me know. Okay, on the front page, exam details. Things like where, when, how, what to bring, what not to bring, stuff like that. You'll want to check it out. But remember, it's Wednesday, 8:45, Brady Hall, okay? Extra help sessions. There's 3 between now and the exam. Save up your questions, come, and I'll help you out. Also, if you get a question along the way, you can send me an email, and I'll help you out that way too. Finally, a section on the format, the types of questions that you'll see on the test. Okay, now let's get into the heart of this thing. Bunch of pages here. Topics. This is a bullet point list of all the topics covered in each chapter that we did. It has references to the lesson numbers and all of that to help you dig back in. I've also put some links along the top. There's a link to the review video for that chapter, and there's also a link to all the lesson videos that we've had all year long. So those are there for you. So we got our first unit, second unit, third unit, and our last unit. Okay, so you'll want to dig into that. One good way to use that is to read through it and make a couple notes about things that you definitely want to be sure that you review. Remember, review intelligently. Don't do 10 problems for a process that you already know how to do. Use your time to review the stuff that gives you grief, that's challenging to you, that you're not sure if you're going to get right. Do that first. That's a higher priority thing. So you can use these topic lists as a way to drill in and figure out which things that you need to review. Like perhaps in our advanced trigonometry chapter, you never got like how to use sine squared theta plus cosine squared theta equals 1. So drill into that and figure out how to use that to like solve for theta or solve for a coordinate. Okay, so after the topic list, there's a couple more sections I want to call your attention to. We have a test study strategy. So these are tips and tricks for ways to study for a test. Now I'm sure you have your go-to technique. And you might have a group of study buddies, you always study with them. You might be a loner type, I want to close the doors, put on my music, and I don't want to hear anybody while I study. Great, you've identified the techniques that work well for you. What I would suggest you do is just take a look at this list. There might be one more thing on there that would be a good thing that you could incorporate into your repertoire of study techniques. So check that out. The last thing is test taking strategies. Now believe it or not, there's lots of different types of things you can do while taking a test that will improve your chances of getting a great score without necessarily learning more math. Like here's my favorite one to share with you, and you just need to remember this. Don't waste time on problems that stump you. So as you work through the test steadily, slowly but surely, you might get to a problem and you're like, oh my God, I don't know what to do with this. So skip it. Don't waste 15 minutes trying to solve that 3-point problem when you could skip ahead and get another 3-point problem right, and another one and another one. A point is a point is a point. Doesn't matter whether you earn it through a hard one or an easy one. So make absolutely sure that you get the easy and medium ones right before you throw everything you have at the hard problems. I see people stumble on that one all the time, so just remember that. Another good tip is to flip through the test all the way first before you start taking it. It's a good idea to know what you're in for, where all the problems are, what the diagrams look like, things like that. In general, I organize the test in the order of the topics as we covered them over the school year. So that kind of will be an anchor for you. Okay, so that's enough for the review guide. Let's take a look at the content. We started the year with advanced trigonometry. This was the unit circle, 2 pi radians around. And we had all these special points on the outside of the unit circle. Remember, it's called a unit circle because the radius is 1. And we did all kinds of stuff with sine and cosine and even with tangent a little bit. I felt like this was a fairly complicated unit. There's a lot of moving parts in there. There's nothing in there that's super difficult, but there's a lot going on. So you want to dig into that review set. In fact, there's a review set connected to each of these 4 sections of what we covered. So that's the best way to get ready for a test, because a test is math problems. So what's the best way to prepare for doing math problems is Oh yeah, doing math problems. So we started with advanced trigonometry, then we did the small world unit. This was a unit that focused on building a manual technique for calculating a derivative, and you're on the hook for that technique. We did a lot of problems along the way to solving this particular unit problem, and we discovered a bunch of side trips and things like that. All the topics you need to know are on the topic list for that unit. Then we jumped into our heavy pre-calculus unit. This had the most complicated algebra of anything we've done so here, all that x plus h stuff. And we did a lot of cool things in there. We understood what limits were, and we looked at limits of different functions as they approach certain numbers, or infinity, or 0, things like that. Then we used the limit concept to come up with a different definition of the derivative. And it's kind of cool because that definition of the derivative closely matched what we did in small world as we calculated derivatives there. And then finally, we took a look at integrals, which are just backwards or anti-derivatives. Just like division undoes multiplication, integration undoes derivation. So these are inverse operations. Then we finished up with our most recent unit where we play with sequences and a little bit of work with series. Remember, we had two types of sequences. We had arithmetic, where you get the next term in the sequence just by adding or subtracting a common difference between the terms. That's arithmetic. And then we did geometric sequences, where you do the same thing, but instead of adding or subtracting, you multiply or divide the last term by some common ratio to get the next term. So that's really the only difference between arithmetic and geometric sequences. We set up some algebra problems using what we knew about those sequences to solve for a variable. And then finally, we took a look at arithmetic series. And a series is the sum of a sequence. And we looked at finite arithmetic sequences and we figured out what their sums were. Okay, so that's pretty much it. That's all the content that we covered. So I just want to say I'm wishing you the best luck. I'm hoping that you're super diligent getting ready for the test. I'm admonishing you to get enough sleep the night before. Don't skimp on sleep. And I'm looking forward to grading your test and seeing just how successful you're going to be.